Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly do a follow-up video for Frostpunk 2 Fractured Utopias. That Fractured Utopias DLC is available for about 12, 13 bucks or so. You do need the core game in order to play it. I did release an informational video a couple of days ago, and I just now got through my first playthrough with the Technocrats and the Ice Bloods, and I'll load that up in a minute so I can show you their unique stuffs. But speaking of unique stuffs, for those of you that didn't see my prior video, this particular DLC does a number of things. It offers 8 unique faction utopias, each with new system tools and endgame, 8 unique faction skill trees, 12 unique unlocks like laws, new hubs, abilities per faction, 8 new faction hubs, 1 per faction, 8 new faction-specific variants of housing districts, over 100 new narrative events, 2 premium tales, the Doomsayers and Plague, and lastly, it says 1 new map, but I did my research and there's 2 new maps. So I don't know if like one is just free to everyone and the other one is DLC exclusive. I don't know. So anyway, let's go ahead and sort of recap what I said in my informational video, then I'll give you my thoughts and show you around a bit. I'm going to do this manually because it's much easier. So everything that this DLC encompasses is all in the Utopia Builder / Endless mode. None of it is in the story mode. And I think the developers mentioned that they see the story mode as like the introductory to the game, and like the Utopia Builder is kind of like where the meat of the game is. And I tend to agree with that. Although the story is a lot of fun. Now, before I load up my save that I spent like 7-8 hours on, whatever it was, I'm going to go ahead and show you around the new stuff here. There are 2 new tales, as I already mentioned. There's this Doomsayers tale and the Plague tale. So with the Doomsayers, some are convinced there is no hope and they seek to destroy our city. And there's some recommended cities off to the right, as well as an unlock, the Eternal Clock Tower. And then this one, the Plague, find the cure before the deadly virus envelops the entire city, unlocks the Guardian Bell Tower, and then some recommended settings to the right as well. I have not played these at all. I'm a casual gamer. I don't like making the game harder. I like making the game easier because I have so many games to get to, and I don't want to bang my head against a brick wall. That's not fun to me. But maybe at some point I will try them on like a more lax setting. But yeah, they're here. If you are the kind of person that likes to make their games more challenging, there's 2 new tales right there. Now, whether or not you pick one, you can move on to the Communities tab here, and this is a whole new thing. So you can like pick 3 community affinities. So like say you've got the Foragers, Adaptation, Laborers, Equality, and then this Lord's Tradition. Like you pick which ones you want here. And then down here, you pick your starting faction. And this will shape what Utopia trees that you have access to for your run. And I have to stress that in my game, I only saw 2 of them. I played as the Technocrats as my starting faction, and then the Ice Bloods popped up shortly later, and then I had access to their Utopia trees. I'll show you those Utopia trees in a minute. So in order to see everything, you kind of have to play, I guess, 4 times. One playthrough would be, these 2. One playthrough would be these 2, one playthrough would be these 2, and so on. So, like, you're going to need multiple playthroughs to see all of the unique trees and figure out what you like. Now, luckily, there is a brief description on the right. The Overseers, for example, due to good relations with Overseers, they voluntarily organize and conduct patrols throughout the city. So they have the good relations perk voluntary patrols. That kind of gives you a clue as to, like, what you're getting into, but again, I have to stress, I wasn't expecting the kinds of abilities the Overseers had when I was briefly glancing at their tree. What I did was I loaded up a save. Like I started a new game, looked at it, took a couple of screen grabs, and then I tried a different one just to see what they were about. And I'll pull those up in a minute for you. But suffice it to say, you pick a starting faction, whatever you want, and I guess we'll pick that one there. That's fine. And then as far as the maps are concerned, you have, let's see, you've got the Windswept Peaks and the Fractured Gorge. I believe those are the 2 new ones. I played on the Windswept Peaks with my playthrough. Lots of natural gas on that map, so it was really nice. I pretty much had free fuel the entire time. And then the Fractured Gorge, where did I play on that one? It offers potential geothermal power. Well, I'll find out when I load it in. But yeah, I played on one of these 2 when I load that up. So yeah, these are the 2 maps here. And then of course you can pick what difficulty you want, whether you want survivor mode or serenity mode, and then you can pick your like goal or ambition, assuming you want to do that at all. Okay, so let's go ahead now and load up my save from the Technocrats and the Ice Bloods, and I'll show you what I mean by Utopia trees. Now I have to stress that each faction has now a unique way to play, and that is going to change how you build and research and everything. It's going to make you a little uncomfortable in some situations. Let's go ahead and lower the volumes a little bit so I'm not fighting for control here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just pause the game. And as you can see, I'm very much well into, like, I've beat it at this point. I'm waiting for 10,000 more food, and then I win the game. So again, both of these factions, unique in their own way. I'm going to go ahead and load up the Technocrats here. As you can see, these guys, Technocrats, they're devoted with me right now. But you'll be able to like pull up their tree and do different kinds of things. I mean, via interacting with their trees here. And what's interesting on the bottom left, if you click on the bottom left here, it brings up their Utopia tree. And you can toggle between the two that you have with this up arrow on the very top. Now, you start off on the bottom and you work your way up, and you gain a point every time you satisfy each row on the left-hand side. So there's 3 columns. There's this column on the left that's partially filled. The second column is pretty much all the way filled, and then the one on the right is like almost all the way filled. But what you need to do is you need to like fill each like line, and then this point is now available. And then you go to the next row. Do I have a yellow line in all 3? I do. I have a point there. Do I have 3 yellow lines here? I do. I get a point there. And I'm now stuck here. I need to build a deep code-generating drill in order to progress up this tree on the left. Okay? So you have to like pass certain laws, you have to build certain structures, and you have to, well, fulfill what they want here in this tree in order to go up this tree and then unlock more points. Okay? And it's the same thing with the Ice Bloods here. I didn't get very too far with them. I had to pass family law, apprenticeship law, and I didn't really want to. But I could have in order to get more points out of them and do various things. Now, just to give you a quick like overview of what the Technocrats do, they have this really cool resource. Let's go ahead and close out of here, and I'll show you what it does. On the very top, there's a new, it's hard to see, but on the very top, there's a new compute resource that they have. And again, each faction gains a new node that they can construct. And this node, this calculating node that I can put down as the Technocrats, you put it next to your starting base, which is this central district here. Like this computing node wants to be next to the central district because it buffs. It gives you so many resources, it's ridiculous. Efficiency in neighboring central district is increased. So you're going to get more food. You're going to get more materials. You're going to get more starting goods. It's a great starting. I mean, I didn't hurt for anything in the beginning. I didn't have to mine out food. I didn't have to mine out almost anything in the very beginning because I had one of these down. It was really nice. And you can buff that later via the tech trees. So I just thought that was really cool that these guys, gave me a great head start on everything. And yeah, and they even, with that calculate ability, compute and neighboring calculating nodes is increased. And then, so if you have multiple nodes next to each other, they kind of buff each other. +3 modifier, for example, for this one from calculating node cluster. So the more you put around each other, the more of this compute that you get. Now, what can you do with this compute resource? Well, you can interact with other things. Like, for example, this is a food district here. I can optimize inputs by spending this compute. And don't worry, you can get it back anytime you want. So I could spend 5 right there, and then I can click on it again, and I have it back. Okay, so that's really nice. And what that does, the optimize inputs, affects scales with available compute. So for 5 compute, demand is decreased in scale with available compute. So the more compute you have, the better, as far as I can tell. And then the one on the right, optimize outputs. effects scale with available compute. Efficiency is increased in scale with available compute. So like you can either like lower demand or increase efficiency depending on what you want to do with that. So yeah, you with this Technocrats faction, you generate this compute and then you assign that compute to various districts that you have in order to, make everything better. And that's just the one faction, mind you. And again, they've got their own tree that does other things, like the civic index. All communities' fervor is extremely decreased. Tension is significantly decreased. Collective brainstorm. They have this ability. After a few weeks, a random solution to a random topic will be researched. Okay, that's nice. I can enable that via button push on the central district, which is nice. They have their own housing, where if you convert it, research speed is and research institutes in this district is greatly increased. Workforce demand in research institutes in this district is greatly decreased, so on, so on. Replicating cores, all that stuff. So that's great. And then the Ice Bloods, like, they seem to favor going out and getting resources from the environment. Their outposts were buffing my logistics stuffs. Let me see here. Too far. I'm outside the city now. There it is, logistics, this blue one here. So I have one of these proving grounds, which is their special hub. Workforce demand in neighboring logistics districts is greatly decreased. Frostland teams' output in neighboring logistics districts is increased. So I have the Technocrats in the middle of my central district hub there, giving me resources, and then I've got the Ice Bloods on the outskirts near my logistics stuffs, going out and getting more resources for me and making my Frostland teams better. And I'll show you their stuffs real quick here. Ice Bloods, there we go. So like cutthroat, frost breaking, costs no heat stamps, breaks an unlimited number of tiles simultaneously, but typically at some kind of penalty. Injuries will occur per tile frost broken in this way. So you can like frost break like mad, but at the penalty of getting a bunch of injuries. Relations with all communities, but Technocrats decrease much less when citizens die. Undying outposts. You can convert an outpost to an undying outpost, and it continues to operate during whiteouts, but has double the Frostland team's cost. Injuries will occur. This particular faction is very injury heavy, very blasé. People get injured all the time. Cage matches, grizzled teams, honored scars, alpha challenge. Some will die in the arena. But yeah, efficiency is in nearby districts is greatly increased, but some people will die in the arena. They've got their own housing. So yeah, again, this is just two of the factions. And like I said, there are going to be other factions as well that will do different things. Now, I don't want to spoil too much for you, but I took a peek at some of the other factions, and I didn't play as them yet because I haven't had the time to do it. However, I looked at the Overseer's tree that introduced something called mementos and artifacts, and in this unique way of playing, at least with the Overseers, you're going to be finding these mementos out not only in like your immediate area, like you can actually put things down on the map and then earn these mementos, and you also find them out in the Frostland too, the Wasteland. But the more mementos that you have, the more abilities that you unlock. And it's unfortunate that they're all grayed out there and I really couldn't read them that well. So sorry about that. I haven't had time to play through the entire game, at least with the Overseers, to get all their bonuses. But I just thought that was interesting. You gain mementos, and the more you get, the more buffs you get. That was cool. And then the Bohemians, they're all about the performance square. They have their own performance square, district hub, whatever. And they have this, I guess, unique resource called troops. And I don't fully understand it yet, but there's this building wear mechanic that somehow, or district wear, I should say, district wear mechanic that synergizes with troops. And I have to play it to really understand it, but that's a new thing. Okay, so I just, again, thought that was really interesting. And then the last one I looked at briefly were the Venturers. From what I gathered here, these guys are all about the trade income, the credits, the money. the moolah. That's what they want. And from my understanding with them, it's all about producing goods and creating some kind of demand and then selling those goods to the people in order to get more money. But like I said, their unique Utopia tree will allow them to do other things as well. But again, so each of these guys will behave in a different way, and it's up to you to decide how you want to use that particular faction, which I thought was pretty interesting. So with all of that said, I really think that you're going to get a lot of playtime out of this DLC. Like I said, with 8 different factions having 8 different trees, and typically you're going to see 2 of those factions every playthrough, at least I did. You're going to have to replay this several times to see everything. And there's going to be a faction that you probably like more than others and want to play with them more often. Now, I have to sort of point out what I don't like about this particular DLC is that this game sort of ramrods you into going down a particular path in order to unlock like the respective factions' technologies or their Utopia trees. So like I want this shiny thing from their Utopia tree. I want this ability. However, it's locked behind this law that I don't want to enact. So like I'm forced to like go against my typical playstyle in order to unlock some of their stuff. I don't like that. I don't like some of the politics in this game. I just want to build a city in this Frostland and keep people alive. But politics is a very big thing in Frostpunk 2. And this particular DLC seems to double down on that. And some people may not like that. Okay, some people may not like, okay, I in order for me to see this next thing or to utilize this faction's abilities, I now have to like enact this law or build the structure that I don't want to build because I don't have, I already have enough squalor. I don't want any more. Okay, that kind of thing. And you may be like 2 or 3 hours into a playthrough before you realize, I hate this faction. So I'm just going to, like, do I keep playing and see it out or do I start over? It's 2 or 3 hours gone. So yeah, I wish I could see the Utopia trees all at once before I pick a faction, so I know what I'm getting into, so I'm not wasting my time on a faction that I absolutely cannot stand to level up, as it were. But I mean, still, for the money that you're going to be spending on this, $12-13, and I spent 7 to 9 hours on one playthrough. So you're looking at, and again, I play conservatively and casually. So you might be able to speed run it because you're better than me. That's fine. But for me, 7 to 9 hours per playthrough 4 times. That's 7 times 4 is 32. So at minimum 32 hours for me to see all the different factions and play around with them. That's a pretty good deal, all things considered. Let's play conservative 20 hours to see all 8 of those trees, probably, if you're really good at this game. But like I said, you could always start a game if you want and look at the Utopia tree and then decide, I don't know, let's load up a different faction, see what you could do that, I suppose. But yeah, so I do recommend it for what it is. I like Frostpunk 2. It's different. It has its own charm compared to Frostpunk 1, but I still enjoy playing it, and I do recommend this Utopia DLC. This is Vince. Thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all next time. Take care.